Hey, I'm Kyle Griswold with Broken Blade Publishing. I make tabletop role-playing games such as Streets of Peril. And right now I'm working on a new game called Oathhammer, which I expect will release sometime around the summer of 2025. So, why should you care about my new game and what makes it so exciting? Well, for starters, Oathhammer is a departure from some of the other indie games out there in that it is not just another D&D variant. Oathhammer uses a d6 dice pool with 3 different colors of dice. White dice are default. They succeed on a 4, 5, or 6. Red dice succeed on a 3-up. Black dice succeed on a 2-up. By using different colors of dice, the game can express various levels of competency without simply having to add or remove dice to a roll. All dice, regardless of color, they explode, meaning that every time you roll a 6, you get to add another die to your dice pool and add the result to your total. Most skill checks are resolved by just trying to meet or exceed a target number, which we call a difficulty value. So meaning that, if you're trying to do a skill check with a difficulty value of 3, if you roll your dice pool and you have 3 or more successes, you succeed. Otherwise, it's going to be some kind of opposed roll. I think the combat mechanics for Oathhammer are really cool, and they're inspired by my 15 years of HEMA experience. I believe that these rules really capture the way a medieval fight should feel without being overly complicated. Oathhammer rolls are easier to interpret and narrate because they are less ambiguous. When an attack misses, for example, in D&D, it could mean a variety of different things because armor class is intentionally abstract. In Oathhammer, a miss means just that. The target was able to dodge or parry the attack, and this is mechanically different than how armor functions. Because armor isn't lumped in with active forms of defense, we can implement an armor penetration mechanic, making some weapons more ideal against armored combatants than others. In D&D, you could have a high dexterity, lightly armored elf, and he could have the same AC as a low dexterity, heavily armored dwarf, and they would function identically, and there's really no interesting distinctions between the two. In Oathhammer, those two characters would play very differently, and they would excel in different scenarios. In Oathhammer, arcane and divine magic are mechanically distinct. For priests, they need to be careful about how they use their miracles, because if their deity feels that they're abusing that divine power or they're using it in a frivolous manner, they can temporarily deny them access to miracles. So, to represent this mechanically, the more often that miracles are used during the day, the more difficult they are to perform. And once a priest fails a magic check, they can't use miracles again for the rest of the day. They don't get access to miracles again until the following dawn. Arcane spells derive from 6 traditions of magic, and each has its own unique quirks. When a spellcaster rolls a 1 while trying to perform magic, they incur a point of arcane stress. And if a mage's arcane stress meets or exceeds their stress threshold, then they temporarily lose the ability to perform magic. The trade-off is that there are no spell slots or other limitations on spellcasting. Players can choose from 6 lineages, which include dwarves, furbolgs, halflings, high elves, humans, and wood elves. Now, there are no half angels or dragon people. I'm really trying to capture the feel of classic fantasy, and it's possible that maybe in the future I explore some other lands within the world and then maybe introduce some other lineages. But for right now, I'm just trying to keep a focus on these 6 core lineages. Now, there are also 10 classes the player can choose from. But unlike other games which use classes, character progression in Oathhammer does not involve levels. Players instead spend their experience like currency to buy skill ranks and special traits. And this allows players to incrementally advance their characters between sessions instead of having to wait long periods of time to gain a bunch of advancements all at once. Characters in Oathhammer have to declare 3 oaths. And these oaths can be something that is a formal, publicly declared oath, or they can be secretly held vows. But essentially what these oaths represent are the guiding principles for the character. These are really deeply held beliefs and explain the kind of motivations that the character will have. Now, if the character is adhering to their oaths, then they gain a boon. And these boons are some kind of mechanical advantage that the character gets. Now, if they violate one of their oaths, then they suffer from a bane. Something bad will happen mechanically until they can do something to rectify the wrong that they've done. Some oaths are more difficult to follow than others, though more restrictive oaths usually offer greater incentive through their boons. For example, the oath of truth prevents a character from lying or using any manner of deception. This can be pretty harsh, but the character is now able to roll black dice for perception checks, and they can intuit when other people are lying to them. And both of these benefits are really powerful. Osric Isle is the default setting for Oathhammer, a land once ruled by dwarves and now conquered by orcs. Exploring Osric Isle is an important part of the game and is done through hex crawling. Each region of the island is detailed along with its landmarks, and region-specific random encounters ensure the world retains verisimilitude and makes GM preparation easier. While exploring Osric Isle, the players are expected to establish a domain and resist the evil forces that are currently occupying it. Domain level play is not an afterthought in Oathhammer, it's actually a key component of the game. The game provides rules for building settlements or raising armies, waging wars, sieging cities. There's rules for political intrigue and even espionage. There are also tables for determining the actions of rival domains, making it much easier for the GM to track all of the various faction activity on the island. So I know I only touched on the various different aspects of Oathhammer, and I intend to make some more videos where I follow up and I go into each one of these different components in more detail, but please leave me comments in the video about what it is that you want me to elaborate on further. And also, if you are interested, the quick start for Oathhammer is now it's available for free. I'll leave a link in the video description for where you can go and download a free copy of that quick start. Now, if you like what you see in the quick start, I would encourage you to consider becoming a patron. Patreon patrons get full access to what I have written right now. It's about 240 pages of Oathhammer content. And the other thing too, right now, I already have the pre-launch page for Oathhammer up on Kickstarter. So again, I would just love it if you guys would go in there, click the little notify me of launch button on there, and follow on Discord. You know, come hang out and talk to me, give me feedback. There's been lots of really good playtesting feedback so far. A lot of that has been implemented into the game, and so this is kind of one of those opportunities where, you know, you can essentially shape the way that this game is going to look going forward. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys right now, but I'll talk to you again soon.